Have you ever known someone who just desperately wants to connect with people, but it's like they push everyone away at every single turn? Well, today we're going to explore the internal world of avoidant personality disorder, or AvPD. It's a condition that's really defined by that exact paradox. So let's start to understand this complex architecture of avoidance.
And that question, right there, is the whole puzzle, isn't it? It's this really painful contradiction that can feel like you're trapped behind these invisible walls. I mean, how can the very thing you want most, comfort, belonging, also be the source of your greatest fear? That's the central struggle for anyone living with AvPD.
And here it is, the heart of the whole conflict. It's a constant, absolutely exhausting tug of war. On one side, you've got this deep, genuine yearning for closeness, but it's always fighting this overwhelming fear, a fear of judgment, of criticism, or worst of all, the pain of being rejected.
So let's really dive in and start to unpack this lonely contradiction, because it truly is the defining experience of avoidant personality disorder. Okay, so what are we actually talking about when we say AvPD? Well, the clinical definition points to a pervasive, long-term pattern, and the keywords here are really important: inhibition, inadequacy, and extreme sensitivity. I mean, they really paint a picture of a life lived on high alert, where pretty much every social interaction feels like a potential threat.
All right, now that we have a basic definition down, let's get a much clearer picture of what AvPD actually is. We'll look at how it's classified and really break down its core features.
You know, in the world of psychology, personality disorders are sorted into 3 groups or clusters, based on what they have in common. AvPD falls into something called Cluster C, which is the anxious/fearful group. Now, this is a really crucial detail because it tells us that the behaviors we see, they're not born from a lack of desire to connect. They come from a profound, deeply ingrained sense of anxiety and fear.
So, what does this actually look like in a person's day-to-day life? Well, these are the 5 central pillars. You've got the fear of rejection, which fuels the avoidance. Then the low self-esteem makes any little piece of criticism feel absolutely devastating. And the end result of all of this? A deep, painful loneliness. It's this vicious cycle where each feature just feeds into the next, creating this fortress of isolation.
And while it might not be a term you hear every day, AvPD is not incredibly rare. Not at all. Estimates suggest it affects about 1 to 2% of the general population. I mean, think about it. That's millions of people living with this invisible struggle, often in total silence, because the very nature of the disorder makes it so hard to reach out for help.
So, we've seen the what of AvPD. Now, let's try to explore the why. We're going to step inside the internal world of someone with this condition for a minute and really look at the thought patterns and core beliefs that build this whole architecture of avoidance. This one sentence says it all, doesn't it? This is the core belief. It's the foundational thought that everything else is built on. It's this deep-seated, gut-level conviction that you are somehow fundamentally flawed, and that if anyone sees the real you, they're going to reject you. It's inevitable.
And from that one core belief, all of these specific, automatic, and distorted thoughts just kind of sprout up. These are the scripts running on a loop inside your head, reinforcing that need to avoid. Each one, I am boring. One mistake will be catastrophic. It's like another brick in the wall, making that final thought, it's just safer not to try, feel like the only logical conclusion.
Okay, this is so important to understand. AvPD is not just being shy. It's not just being an introvert. It is a clinical disorder, and it's fueled by a deep-seated fear. And making that distinction is absolutely vital.
This table is a fantastic way to see the differences clearly, so let's walk through it. Okay, so with social anxiety, the fear is often tied to specific things, right? Like public speaking. But with AvPD, that fear is pervasive. It touches almost every part of your life. The key difference with schizoid personality disorder is desire. People with AvPD desperately want connection. People with schizoid PD generally don't. And introversion? That's just a preference for recharging with less stimulation. It's not driven by fear. It's a really important distinction to make. So after exploring just how deep-seated this disorder is, it's pretty natural to wonder, is there a way out? Well, the most important message I want you to take from this explainer is that there is. There is hope. There absolutely is a path toward connection.
And here is the bottom line. While AvPD is considered a chronic, long-term condition, it is absolutely treatable. With the right support, with the right therapy, the symptoms can improve so much. People really can learn to build the meaningful connections they've always wanted.
One of the most effective tools for this is something called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. It's a really practical two-step process. First, you work with a therapist to identify and challenge that core belief we talked about, that deeply ingrained idea that you're fundamentally unlikable. Then, for step 2, you start to gently and gradually face the social situations you fear, but, and this is key, with support. This helps build confidence and gives you real-world proof that rejection isn't always the outcome.
And, CBT isn't the only path. Other types of psychotherapy can help you dig into early life experiences that might have planted those seeds of fear. Sometimes medication can help manage the intense anxiety and depression that often go along with AvPD. But notice the goal here, the common thread. It's about validating the fear, because the fear is very real, while gently encouraging new, braver behaviors at a pace that feels safe. And that brings us to a final thought, a question for all of us, really. Because while AvPD is a clinical diagnosis, that struggle at its heart, that's something we can all relate to on some level. So it's worth asking ourselves, what invisible walls, built from our own fears and insecurities, might be holding us back from the connections we truly desire?